You are now listening to the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of They Live by Film, a podcast dedicated to whatever Adam says every single week when he's here. My name is Zach Bryant, and with me is Chris as we finish up our final episode on Tobe Hooper. How are you doing, sir?
Hello, Zachary K. Bryant. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. We're going to get into this in just a minute, but it's another week where I enjoyed these movies more than I was expecting to. And I'm just so impressed with this Toby Hooper character.
Yeah, I hope he becomes something one day.
Well, it would be scary if he did at this point.
Hey, hey, you never know. This AI stuff, they'll bring him back to life to direct one more movie.
The first movie from North Korea, maybe, or something like that. Man, let's see. We are almost halfway through the year. We're 4 full months into the year. Um, how are you doing with your movies?
I've actually slowed down quite a bit in the last few weeks. I'm at 190 for the year, maybe 191. But I actually haven't watched much in like the last week or so because I have been obsessively playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which has absorbed my whole life because I don't even want to look at how many hours I put in on it. It's a lot.
Okay, catch me up. So there was a game called, give me a second, Prince of Persia.
Yeah.
And that game is essentially, you go through these levels and you just look for ways to like jump on platforms or swing on like flagpoles that are out, or like, it's a very
Mhm.
much an adventure style game, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
And then on the success of that, I think is that where the first Assassin's Creed came in?
So, and somebody who's much more delved in might can correct a few things, but my
Uh-huh.
understanding has always been that the originally Assassin's Creed was going to be a Prince of Persia game.
Okay.
And when they started, I guess, putting in more of the sci-fi elements and things like that, it
Mm-hmm.
ended up becoming its own thing because I want to say Ubisoft, or at least the company that owned Ubisoft at the time, maybe did Prince of Persia. So I think yeah, there is a lot of connection there. So especially when you play the original PS3 game, you're like, oh yeah, there's a lot of Prince of Persia in here.
Okay. So then my question for you is, because I remember the first Assassin's Creed game very well,
Okay.
but I've sort of stopped playing video games other than stuff on my phone or like occasionally something with Roblox with my son. So what take us into Assassin's Creed in 2026? Is it still that adventure style? Is it platform style? Is it
So
open world? Like what is it now?
yeah, so essentially, and I think they're gonna be you're gonna we're kind of in a weird era because I think it's gonna change again. So
Okay.
Assassin's Creed up into Syndicate, which I guess you could say is the sixth mainline entry, was the
Okay.
same sort of thing as the first Assassin's Creed, but it added like different eras and things like that. After that, there was a lot of burnout. A lot of people were like, "We Assassin's Creed either needs to change or it needs to die because we have exhausted what this series can be."
Okay.
So they went in and they went into a more RPG element with Origins, where they went to ancient Egypt and they went through that. That was very controversial, but they continued on to that, where went to Odyssey and then Valhalla, Mirage, and then Shadows, which I haven't played the last three of those. This is actually the first time I'm playing Odyssey. I don't tend to like RPGs all that much. At least I
Mhm.
say that, and then I put in a stupid amount of hours when I actually find one I like.
Yeah.
So it's changed a lot, and they're remaking four. I don't know if you played four or not, but that was the one with pirates. That was the real
Mm-mm.
popular one.
Mm-mm.
So that's getting a remake that's releasing in July, and it looks like I guess they're trying to kind of mix the two a little bit. So I guess we'll
Mhm.
see how that goes, because a lot of people were very angry about the RPG elements of Assassin's Creed.
Interesting. So like RPG meaning like you're gonna go have like enemies on the screen and then you have to build up like magic components to beat them and you build up your weapon strength and like a lot of that kind of stuff. Like you become
Yeah, like you have your upgrade tree, so
yeah,
you
yeah, yeah, yeah,
can
yeah. Okay, got
yeah,
it.
you find armor that you like and you go through that. Yeah. You build your character up.
Hmm. Okay, okay.
Whereas in the traditional Assassin's Creed, really your upgrades were just getting better weapons, like through a
Hmm.
cuts, you would eventually get like a new, it was essentially getting a new gameplay mechanic. It's
Hmm.
like, oh, well, this is Assassin's Creed 1. Here, we're going to give you the throwing knives.
Hmm.
And, that's like a third way through the game and things like that. So that just opens it up a little bit more.
Well, I
Whereas
that
now, here's 100 different types of weapons. You choose your play style.
uh, it sounds like I would play the hell out of that game. Sorry to talk about video games on a movie podcast, but I remember Prince of Persia was one of my favorite games on because you could just kind of relax and play it, you know? Like it was I just found it so fun to play.
Yeah, yeah, I enjoyed Prince of Persia. They did a new one semi recently. I haven't played it yet, so I don't know if it's any good or not. But
Okay.
well, honestly, and I'll leave it the games. I'm sure there is at least 10 people there. It's like at least they're not talking about sports right now, so I feel okay talking about games for a second. Um,
You're mixing it up.
yeah, yeah. I would love there if they were ever going to do a Conan game, like the Assassin's Creed Odyssey type. I would
Mhm.
love that. That would be my dream if they were ever going to do a Conan game.
Conan the Barbarian?
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
that'd be fun, yeah.
Yeah, like it's we need more Conan stuff for sure.
I think there would be a temptation to make a Conan game more like a World of Warcraft style, right?
They kind of already do that with Conan Exiles, so they
Okay.
do have the MMO. But
Oh, okay.
I just I want to play as Conan. Like
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what I want to play as. It's cool to get to do the MMO, but also like every time I start Exiles, I'm like 7 hours in, and I'm like, man, here's my little hut I built, and I keep dying to everything, so I don't want to leave.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, we'll see what happens this summer because the new He-Man movie's coming out, right? The new Masters of the Universe movie.
Yeah, I'm hoping that'll kind of like boost things. And, they
Yeah.
announced recently that Schwarzenegger is going to come back for a King Conan movie, which, in all honesty, I'll believe it when I see it go into production because
Yeah.
King Conan has been talked about for decades. And I don't know. I don't mind that being the way they go, but I also think Arnie's a bit old. Like, even for King Conan, he's old.
Yeah. I mean, it'd be one of those weird things. It's like a James Bond movie where Sean Connery was 65 or something. Like, I don't know, at some point you're like, yeah, he's not really.
Yeah, and I feel like in like the world of Conan and stuff, like it's almost like for someone like Conan, it would almost be a tragedy to die of old age. It kind of
I
reminds
mean,
me of,
yeah, for
how
sure.
yeah, like even to tie it back to games, it kind of reminds me of like Kratos as a character for like God of War.
Mm.
There's a whole thing with him where he kind of talks about he's not afraid of death, but death can have him when it earns him. And I'm like, I feel like that's a very Conan type thing.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Um, well, I have not to abruptly switch, but most of my stuff, unsurprisingly, has all been Vinegar Syndrome related.
Mhm.
Um, I'm trying to think if there's anything. The other thing I'm doing, I mentioned that Shaw Brothers thing that we're working on now.
Yes.
And the cool thing about that is that this week I will be watching a movie with one of the best titles in movie history. It's called Dirty Ho.
Dirty Ho.
Yeah, and that's not like a one-off translation that people kind of stuck to. Like that was the international translation, and the reason is because um, in the literal translation, the best I could figure out is it's something like ruffian or like scoundrel or like bad guy, and then the guy's name is He, and I'm assuming that if you pronounce that in Cantonese, it's something that sounds like ho. I don't know,
Okay.
but that's my best guess. So it's like scoundrel ho or something like that, and the way that they anglicized it was just to say dirty ho, but it's about a guy who's um a prince or like someone in royalty, and he goes pretends he's more common, and gets hooked up with a criminal, a thief whose name is Dirty Ho, and they go through some adventures. And there's a ton of really crazy, beautiful martial arts, and like it was peak. You know Gordon Liu? Do you know that name? He's in a lot of
It
Tarantino
sounds kind
stuff.
of familiar.
He's in a lot of Tarantino stuff later in his life,
Okay.
um, or the martial arts stuff. And he was in. He's just one of these old famous like, Shaw Brothers guys. But this is when he was in like his peak physical condition, and his um, acrobatics and martial arts and everything are just amazing. And so, yeah, Dirty Ho is a really fun one. It's also funny, but
The title, the character name reminds me of like Joe Nesbo. You know, he has a detective character called Harry Hole.
that's right.
And I've never known if that's on purpose. I mean, those books are like a little bit like tongue in cheek, so I'm like, I think it's on purpose, but I don't know. There might be a translation thing here.
Awesome though. What a great name. But the other thing it signifies is the end of the first volume of Shawscope. So we're now through, which so that arrow set,
Hmm.
we are now through the first one. So we'll figure out
Are there
some.
four now, or is there four or
There's
five?
four, yeah.
Wow.
Um, and they sell pretty well for arrow. So I'm
Well, I know the first one is, I think the first two might be sold out now.
yeah, I believe the first two, I believe.
The first one took, I will give credit. I give it like, I'm not even mad about those being out of stock because they were in stock forever.
Oh yeah,
And
I
they
mean
dropped in price a
2 to 3
lot.
years, yeah.
It's not like, to pick on Sony, even though I do like Sony stuff. Like their first Columbia Classic sold out in no time because it was the only way to get Lawrence of Arabia in 4K and I think Taxi Driver's on that one.
Yeah.
So that's that sold like out in a week, and
Mm.
now they can't. So it's easy to get like sets 2 through 5 or however many it is now, but one is now sold out.
Oh, okay. But are they really pricey on the aftermarket?
They were. I haven't looked up now.
Mm.
I don't think they're as bad as they used to be because Sony has released Lawrence of Arabia and I think they've released Taxi Driver as well on separate 4Ks. There was a big question mark when they first did it as like, are they going to be like exclusive to the set?
Right.
And if they are, that's why people picked them up. I mean, I remember when it first happened, people would like basically break down the set because they come in separate cases. So people would be
Mm.
like, I'm selling all the other five basically in the set by themselves.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
But
Um,
congrats on finishing it, man. So that's awesome.
yeah. So we'll see. I think at this point we'll just have like a week or two of maybe something like 8 diagram pole fighters or something that's a little bit more just casual.
Yeah.
And then get into volume two and just try to
Have
do
y'all decided
three.
if you're gonna do the Scream Factory ones?
There's two things that play really well into Arrow. Number one, people just kind of have them, like it's a real popular thing in
Yeah.
collectors. And the other thing is that they're all streaming on Arrow Player, which is awesome.
Yeah.
So Arrow's done a great job. Special features, commentaries, movies, everything is on the Arrow Player. So that makes it really easy to track along in a ongoing series like this. Scream Factory, I don't know, man. Or I mean Shout Factory, because first of all, there's 8 of them now.
Yeah, I
Like,
thought they had quite a few, and I'm sure there's some. I don't know. Is there a ton of overlap between those sets? I don't know if you know that or
oh, I
not.
don't think there's any, or very, very little.
Interesting. God,
Yeah, yeah,
Shaw
yeah.
Brothers made a lot.
Oh, Shaw Brothers made so many movies, yeah. But there's 8, and they all have at least like 12 movies on them or 14 movies on them. I mean, there's a lot of movies they've put out. And they've put out the Brave Archer set, and they've put out, like all these different types of Shaw Brothers things. So I just don't know how many people are going to have all of that. And I think some of the movies are harder to stream. Um, However, there's one thing that is interesting, and I'll just say this, and we can jump into the main show here. But Vinegar Syndrome on their website, they have one of their part numbers, their SKU numbers is VS followed by a Shout Factory number.
Interesting.
It actually says SF and then has 5 digits or whatever, just like the Shout Factory stuff does.
Yeah.
This has led to a lot of speculation because Shout Factory is no longer producing discs, right?
Right.
Technically, they're selling it through Groove.
Groove. Yeah.
Yeah. But they're not, as far as I know, they're not in that game anymore. But they have so many licenses, right?
Right. Yeah. So
So I don't
what
know. I'm
happens to
not,
those licenses?
yeah.
Essentially.
So I'm not saying anything, but it's just an interesting discovery that somebody made that they have, they could just be a one off thing and that's it, right? Who knows? Um, but at the moment, there's a Shout Factory SKU without a title, and I think it's probably meant for a future release. Um, so that's led to even if it's like a partner label of Vinegar Syndrome. I mean, they could put stuff out for the next 100 years with their catalog, right?
Right.
So who knows? But that would be interesting if Vinegar Syndrome started doing that because that would allow them to get into the Shaw stuff. I'm sure that's one of the things they would love to do.
If there's two things you need to be successful in a boutique market, it's getting some Jess Franco and getting some Shaw Brothers. If you don't have those two things, you're not a boutique label.
Seriously. Speaking of that, do you know, and I should know this, but do you know if Shout Factory has like a streaming site where they would have all these Shaw Brothers movies?
I mean they do have like some type of player. I've never subscribed to it. I know they used to have a player. I don't even know if they still do, to be honest. I never hear anybody talk about it.
No, I don't either. I'll do some homework on that.
Yeah, because it's like what do they call it? Screenbox. Like Screenbox exists. I don't know anybody's ever had Screenbox, but it's a real thing.
Okay. Anyways, if my point, my greater point, and probably my much more efficient point is if it's easy to find them streaming, then yeah, I think we'll probably dive in because there's some really, really good movies in those sets. So it'd be a pity not to do a Shaw
Oh,
Brothers project and not
interesting. So they
include
kind of do a live channels thing.
it. Okay.
So like right now they're playing Tragedy Girls, and then at 8 o'clock they're going to play the original Sleepaway Camp, and then they're going to play Hush. So it's like a TV channel essentially on Roku,
Oh, okay. Okay.
which
I
I
see.
guess is different. I mean that's kind of neat in a way.
Yeah, I think there wasn't the Criterion Channel trying that for a while where they had a name for it where you could just tune in and it was just like they were just playing movies all day.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of like Pluto TV does that as well. So I think plenty have tried it. I don't know how well it works. Like technically Tubi's got it as well, but I've never turned it on. Like I
Oh,
see it when I'm scrolling down.
got it. Sometimes it's nice just to have something playing in the background and not have to think, right? You just gotta catch a few minutes of some random movie.
Yeah, I
Um,
think that's one reason I stay on Tubi though, because sometimes it'll just play whatever comes up next, and they pick the most random shit
that's
to
true.
come next. Like
That's
I'll
true.
look in, I'm like, what the hell is this?
That's true. And it'll go for a while too before they say, "Hey, are you still there?" Like it'll just flag.
Yeah.
Um, well, all right. So we are many, many, many films into Tobe Hooper's career. And we're going to be going from 2004 to 2013. So 9 years and basically 10 years at the end of his life, um, including his first globally financed picture, which I'm super interested to get into.
Yes.
But all of these movies, I'm going to say if there's a theme here for me, I'm going to say all of these movies I feel are underappreciated except for one. Um,
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And I also feel like one thing I'll kind of connect to a lot is it kind of feels like he's retrying things from before.
yes.
Like like a lot of these I'm like I feel like a combination of different things as he's like finishing up.
Yeah, almost like he was looking back in his career and like seeing what worked or something.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll start with, if I'm correct, it should be Toolbox Murders.
That's what I have too.
Sweet. So let me find the correct synopsis. Oh, this is gonna be terrible. I can already tell it's gonna be like 8 hours long.
4 years, just while you're looking for the synopsis, 4 years after Crocodile, which is the last movie we covered last time. In that time, he made one TV movie called Shadow Realm, or at least a segment. Which no, we covered that. I'm sorry, we covered that.
Hmm.
No, Night Visions is what we covered. I'm sorry,
I guess now I'm mixed up. We covered one of
no, Night Visions is what you covered. I hadn't seen it, so you covered Night Visions. Those were made into a movie called Shadow Realm. So that took us to 2002. I'm sorry. He also made a TV miniseries called Taken.
which I did not. We did not bother watching.
No, he made one episode in that show, and then he took a small break. And Toolbox Murders. Oh man, my I forgot to pull my notes up. Toolbox Murders was produced by um does it,
Toolbox Murders Incorporated, apparently, and Toolbox Films.
yeah, it looks like he just went out and got money for this.
Scary
Because it's
Movie LLC, Alpine Pictures. Only one
yeah,
of those sound like a real thing.
yeah, Alpine Pictures is the only one. Yeah, but I think he just like went out and got money for this. Is what it feels like. But let's go. Sorry, if you found the
I did. A historic Hollywood hotel houses a supernatural evil. It's been subdued for decades, but when renovation starts, a series of murders take place. So, I guess to start this, it's worth noting that this is both sort of and not really a remake of the original Toolbox Murders from 1978. I've seen both. I I don't know if you know a connection that's actually between them. I think it's just a name.
so no the in fact I forgot this is one piece of trivia I do know. So because I watched the original Toolbox Murders just out of curiosity for in prep for this. And it's a very different movie. But apparently, there was one of the producers, and I will look through my notes for her name here in just a minute. Jackie Kayla.
Sounds right.
She hated the first Toolbox Murders, saying it was just like a movie, like a male fantasy type thing. But she
Mhm.
liked the premise of it and wanted to have a rewrite that's something in a similar vein, but something that's like a better movie. And I will say, I think this is the original Toolbox Murders is a lot of fun, or is I don't know if fun is the best way to say it, but it's certainly a great exploitation movie. But
Yeah, yeah, it feels like Driller Killer, that sort of thing. Yeah,
yeah,
got that grittiness to it.
yes. But this is also really good. I had a great time with this, and I think this is a wonderful counterpart to the apartment complex. But sorry, keep going.
Yes, I'm glad you brought it. We'll get into that for sure. But yes, I 100% feel that. So, do we have any like? I feel like none of these are going to end up on They Shoot Zombies, but I feel like this might have the best chance
Yeah,
of the
it's
five.
pretty. It did pretty well. It's
Good.
1,204.
Okay, good.
Yeah,
Because I really love this movie. I have always been a really big fan of it. I'm a
yeah,
huge fanboy for Angela Bettis.
she's great in this.
Yeah, she's I've been a big fan of her. I remember, she was big in For the May.
Mhm,
Um that was probably her most famous thing, but I also really
mhm,
like 12-Hour Shift, and I don't know, there's a lot of little stuff she played in this time for horror, and I think she's really good in all of it.
mhm.
Um and I really like what Hooper does here because we're going to talk about this with Mortuary too, but I think it has like this interesting 2000s feel, but it also doesn't feel like anything from its era. Like I can't really describe it. Um, it has like 2000s-ness in it,
Sure.
but I can't find a good comparison to it either. Like it's very Eaten Alive. Like I feel like if you're gonna compare it to anything, it feels like Eaten Alive in an apartment complex.
Oh, wow, that's really interesting. Because yeah, let me think about in the sense of like what
Like
in
the
this
feel, like a feel for it. Like
vibe for it.
apartment complex, I feel like he learned how to, work in a space, like
Yeah,
how to film a complicated space.
yeah,
And I think he really pushed that in Toolbox Murders. And then I don't know, there's this nightmarish dreaminess from Eaten Alive that kind of feels like part of this in a way.
I mean,
Best way I can
certainly.
feel is like it's almost like he updated the aesthetic from 70s to at the time modern.
I would not have made that connection, but I like it because Eaten Alive, if Eaten Alive was made with a much larger budget, it would be remembered, I think, as one of his like a great movie of his. You and I are defenders of Eaten Alive, anyways.
Mhm.
But there's so much interesting stuff going on in that movie, and it's way underappreciated. Um, but it's hard not to think about Texas Chainsaw Massacre when you're watching Eaten Alive because there's like elements from that world that just kind of like it looks like this is another adventure from that world, right?
Yeah, for sure. Like I think his biggest mistake was making it so soon after
Mm-hmm.
Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Right. But this one, if you were to take the there's some elements of claustrophobic like horror in this that I don't think were in Eaten Alive.
Oh yeah, for
Um,
sure. Yeah.
but but there's certainly some similarities. Like there's like a mystique around this house, or in this case, it's a hotel, right? Um,
Now that you kind of mentioned the claustrophobia, one thing I just kind of thought about is, Hooper really uses a lot of open spaces in his stuff. So it's kind of
yeah.
interesting that I can't think of another movie where he really gets into almost like a claustrophobic feel. Because when I think back to everything else, it's all very open.
No, I think he uses so one of my favorite things that he does, just I mean, this is a fun tangent, I think, is he uses these big open expanses, I think, as um like hope almost. Like you feel the terror of the room that they're in or the place that they're stuck in or the the family that's chasing them or whatever because it feels like the world is so big because he never hides this big expanse, right? Like they'll
Yeah.
be all along a highway or like they'll be in a huge field, but like what he does so well is he makes it all feel like there's no escape even though they're in the middle of this huge open space. Like he uses that as a tool for horror, which is so cool and so hard to do.
Yeah, I mean, and that's something he does a lot is, he does a lot of daylight scenes. He does a lot of
Mhm.
lit up scenes. So
Mhm.
kind of what I think maybe makes Toolbox Murders interesting for Hooper in a way is that he kind of hits more of the, I hate to use the word typical, but a little bit more common in the way you develop scares
Mhm.
in horror. You're darkly lit, you're grungy, you're claustrophobic. And I think why Toolbox Murders ends up working as well as it does is because it's almost like he brings uh his that sensibility to it, and I think it helps it stand out a little bit more.
All right, I'm going to say something along those lines. So I want to ask you, and I apologize for any purists out there because there's some Italian movie fans that are purists about what I'm about to ask you. But is there any chance that Tobe Hooper fell in love with Jolly movies or Jollos and sort of took pieces of that into Toolbox Murders?
I definitely think there's elements of that, and I think that's kind of been his whole career. Like, I mean, his plots aren't impossible to follow, but I also feel like they've always felt loose. Like
Mhm.
there's a loose plotting that's always just been
Mhm.
part of Hooper.
Mhm.
Um, and I'll say this too, Carpenter's always got a lot of credit for the slasher movie stuff when he really made like one and a half slasher movies, whereas Hooper made a lot.
Yeah.
Like Hooper really made a lot of slasher movies. Like you
Yeah.
look at both Texas Chainsaw Massacre films, you look at Funhouse, you look at Toolbox Murders, Eaten Alive has got it. You know, and that always ties back into your kind of jally stuff, but I think so. I think there's a lot of that influence with him, whether subconsciously or not.
Yeah, I really felt that, you have the masked killer, you have a little bit of a mystery of who the killer is. You've got um, a lot of not red herrings, but you have a lot of like false positives as the story goes on. Um,
It's definitely more of a mystery. I think that's kind of where
yeah,
it changes because his other slasher movies aren't mysteries as well.
hmm yeah. And the thing I like about this one is that it's vicious. Like it's got that Tobe Hooper kind of like gnarliness to it when the deaths happen. And
Yeah, yeah. Like I think that's an edge that Hooper never lost,
no,
thankfully.
really
Um,
though, like there's a scene in, and sorry, well, you can finish your sentence. Sorry, go ahead.
no, I was gonna say, and I think that's one of the reasons you almost see like this like small renaissance with Hooper in the 2000s, like a very small one, because the 2000s is really when the special effect heavy gnarly deaths, this is the Saw era, this is the torture porn, new French extremity era.
Hmm.
And I think he fit really well into that.
Yeah, he's like, I've been doing this for 30 years.
Yeah, no one liked it before, but here we are back at it.
That's really funny. That's true, actually. There's a scene in here. So the whole premise is that they they're hearing like noises in the wall of this hotel that's being renovated, right?
Mhm.
Um, and there's and the people, some of the people in the hotel start turning up missing, and one of the main character, who's the woman you mentioned, Angela Bettis,
Mhm.
starts to see things happen, or she like starts to hear people screaming, and like there's some nice interplay at first because it's like oh, they're just like reading for a movie that's coming out, or like they're, oh, her love, that's just her and her lover, or like whatever. So she starts to be the lady who cried wolf. And it takes a turn for the nasty, like when she starts to really like actually see things and like hear real things, and hear deaths, um, and we see the whole time, we as the audience see the kills, which I think is a really effective tool in helping build the tension between her and everybody else who thinks she's going crazy. Uh,
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, because I mean, especially in the 90s, I would say the pre-Scream 90s, there was a lot more of like looking away from
mhm,
a kill.
mhm.
And it really wasn't until kind of Scream opened it back up with, it being fairly violent for especially for its time. It was kind of because I always think 70s and 2000s is you want to talk about purists being upset, they're horror purists who would be upset with this comment. But I think they have quite a bit in common. And probably the thing they have most in common is the way they approach violence.
Mm.
And I think that's why Hooper felt more natural here, is because I feel like it's very I would say it's matter of fact. Now, there's arguments that the 2000s was more matter of fact and more gratuitous, but I think they both kind of played with that line.
I was just trying to think of a good director to compare this to. I don't really have anything coming to mind, but the thing that I like what Hooper's done his whole career, and he does it here too, is I think he's never gratuitous. Like when he shows a woman getting drug around her apartment early on in the movie and beaten to death, and then eventually you see her somehow like nailed up to the ceiling of her own room so that no one can find her when they come in, because there's going to be a noise complaint. And so the killer like nails her whole body up to the ceiling so people can't find her. There is a it's a effective kill. Like it's a nasty kill. It's uncomfortable. But I don't think it ever holds on too long in the torture of it. Like I think it's bloody, it's effective, and then he gets out.
Yeah, yeah, and I think there is I'm trying, thinking of somebody modern that I actually think fits that pretty well. I actually think Wan fits that well, like James Wan does.
Okay.
Because like you look at the first Saw movie and you look at like Death Sentence and you look at Malignant, he's not afraid to show anything, but he's also very mindful of when it's time to cut it.
Mm,
And I think for what you're talking about, I feel like Hooper's the same way. He knows when to cut it.
yeah, no, I really do feel like that. So anyways, yeah, that works really well. And then as the movie progresses, there's a moment in this where you could say it's the closest he's come to remaking Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2, when they go down into the belly of the um like the underground cave or whatever. I don't
Yes.
I don't think anything in Toolbox Murders necessarily gets close to that level of insanity. But when they start to uncover where the killer is in the building and how to get there, and this labyrinth that's been created to like hide and all that, it has that similar sort of feeling of just like this is hell, right? And I think he did that really well here.
100%. Yeah. And I think that's something, and we'll talk about this a little bit once we get into a couple of his masters of horror. Um, Hooper does so well in the chaos. Like that's just I think that's been a common theme in every episode, when things get chaotic, that seems to be when Hooper's at his best.
It's the coolest thing about him for me. It's like he just sort of knows how to handle that.
Well, and it almost reminds me of Coppola. Like, Coppola, the issue he had is when he had free reign to do what he wanted and nobody was pushing back, he kind of felt like he lost something. But, when he's out in the middle of the Philippines with actors having heart attacks and him wanting to blow his brains out, he creates phenomenal films.
You're right.
And I feel like, and it might just be that era, like, that first film school era where, even though they were getting school education, which is a lot of what directors weren't really doing at the time, before then, there's still these guys that feel like they never lose like their independent streak.
I'm,
Like,
I'm,
because it's not, oh, I went to film school. It's experimentation. Like going to film school was an experiment in itself.
trying to force Scorsese into that because Scorsese's been able to stay pretty fresh and have his own voice despite having a huge career.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, Scorsese is just kind of an anomaly. I mean, not to get on a tangent with Tarantino, but when we brought him up earlier, he's so scared to go past 10 films because he doesn't want to make bad ones. And you
Mm,
have Scorsese, who's been making movies for 50 years and still gets nominated for Oscars and still
sure.
is considered one of the best to do it. I guess, the closest comparison for Scorsese is Kurosawa.
I'm
And
sure he would love that comparison too.
I'm sure he would.
They were
Yeah. I
close.
mean, a guy who did it, who was on top for a long time and changed styles a lot and, got to go through quite a bit of changes in film and be able to adapt to it.
Yeah. Um, and I think, okay, I want to try to force Hooper into this because this is one thing that surprised me about Hooper is I think he was, there's a few exceptions and we covered those exceptions, but for the most part, the projects he did, he really did a great job with them. And it seems like, he was an interesting director for hire for part of his career because he never really phoned it in. And I really think he took his work seriously. And in his own way, he's kind of carved out, in my mind, he's carved out a place for himself as I talk about the great filmmakers of history. And I'll get into that more at the end of the episode. But I think Toolbox Murders is such a good example of this for me because you go from Crocodile, which I know you didn't like as much as I did, but I think for what it was, he knew exactly what he was making.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think that's something, it didn't matter if it was a killer dress or whatever that movie was where they're in Egypt. What was
Yeah, yeah,
that?
yeah. No, that's the Marquis de Sade one. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, like didn't matter like what the subject was. It was him. It's distinctively him.
hmm And he likes going to dark places, and he likes tapping into that part of the brain that where fear sits. And like he's good. He's a really talented director, I think. And that Toolbox Murders for me is a good example of one where I think if you're a fan of horror and you can watch this movie and enjoy it. I would be surprised if anybody says they hate this movie if they're a horror fan. I think it's got a lot going for it.
I agree, and I think you know eh, it's at a tough time because I remember watching horror movies in the 2000s. That's like really the formative years for me becoming a horror fan. And at the time, the response was horror movies are terrible now.
hmm
Um, they suck and all this other stuff. And I think people have went back and looked pretty positively on the 2000 horror scene. Like For it was its own weird grungy like digital sort of era. Like it's there's nothing quite like it.
Yeah.
Um,
No, it's distinct in that way, right? Like it's distinct in the way that you can call out the Universal horror, Universal monster era, or like whatever. Like if you're calling out a particular era, that the 2000s movies have a vibe to them and a feel to them, right?
yeah, and I mean, you're looking at directors, and of course, horror is such a cheap filmmaking style in most
Hmm.
cases. So,
Hmm. Hmm.
there's some of the first that are saying, "Give me a digital camera,
Right.
I'll make it. Like, just give me one." And it took people like Fincher in with Zodiac to really push. Okay, digital doesn't have to look like shit, guys. We can do this. We can make good looking movies with digital. We don't have to use film.
Yeah, I really want to. I don't know if it's too soon to jump into mortuary, but it just ties so well into what you just said. We'll hold on
Yeah,
to that.
I think we're good to move to mortuary. I really do.
Okay, well, I know we have to like introduce it and everything, but it was made a year later. Um, and I just want to say one thing really quick, and
Now
then
get that out, and we'll get to the plot. That's what you're
we'll
saying is
get.
not important to the plot, so go for it.
Okay, cool. To me, this is a great example of merging what might feel a little bit like a 2000 horrors movie with
Hmm.
something that just feels extremely like it was made by the director of Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I think this movie is a fascinating. I don't know that it's my favorite, but it's a fascinating movie, and I think it shows how uh, that where Hooper's mind goes and how comfortable he is going to like the macabre in a really cool way.
I agree. Mortuary is definitely not my favorite here either. I think it is a step down from Toolbox Murders. And I think a lot of that has to do really with the acting, which isn't
Mm,
horrible. There's worse acting coming in these movies. But like Angela Bettis is really good, and then we kind of go to this cast and it's like they're okay. They're trying.
yeah, right.
But we will move on to Mortuary, which, like you said, came out a year later. So 2005, a family moves to a small California town where they plan on starting a new life running a long abandoned funeral home. The locals fear the place, suspected to be on haunted ground. So I think the interesting part is the haunted ground part, right? Like
Sure.
we're going to Poltergeist, but a very different take compared to Poltergeist, where there's almost like an upfrontness with it, right? Like, the family in Poltergeist doesn't know that what this development came from.
True.
They're victims of circumstance. Whereas here, a family is purposely going to, if there are places that are haunted, if we can, in the movie world that we believe things can be haunted, it's a funeral home.
Yeah.
It haunted is kind of its thing, and you're taking an abandoned one. So it's kind of interesting to have that sort of forwardness with the family. But I also think it kind of highlights the two very different economic backgrounds of the family in Poltergeist and the family in Mortuary.
Okay.
Like I think they are in very different one, they're in very different eras, and I think they're in very different economic statuses. Like the family in Poltergeist is doing pretty good.
Sure.
And so I don't know. I think there's interesting parallels between Mortuary and Poltergeist.
Yes. I think okay, so for me, Mortuary is like a I'm gonna bring up a couple of his movies. I think Poltergeist you can't escape. That's definitely there, 100%. I also think that the character in Funhouse, who what's his name? The guy who is like the MC.
Yes.
Um,
I'm seeing if I can find it real
is
quick
it
for you.
Jack McDermott? Does he play the MC, Mr. Harper?
Jack McDermott. Yep, that's it.
I think it goes to show what a good actor he is because he he's just so believable in that role, and it just feels like this is his world and this is his troop and this like I believe every scene he's in that he's in this world. And there's there's a Mr. Hooper, there's a Mr. Harper, excuse me, character in this movie, sort of a budget guy who's a real estate agent, um, and mortuary, and he's trying that similar thing. He's like laughing a lot, uncomfortably, and he's like effusive in his kindness and niceness, and you can tell that there's like a sinister thing there under him.
Hmm.
And he sucks compared to Jack McDermott, who is so good as Mr. Harper. Um, so yeah, I don't know. I think it just goes to kind of show the difference in quality of acting, like you said, because those roles felt similar to me.
Yeah, and I do think, and this kind of just kind of goes back to what we were talking about the last one. I think he is. This is kind of him going through these elements because I mean, in a lot of ways, mortuary and toolbox murders, in their own way, are the end of his career. Like this, like after this, he does two TV episodes, and then he goes to another country to make a movie. Um,
And nothing, the TV shows do feel like him.
oh, for sure, yeah. I
Uh,
mean, I'm a
but
huge Masters of Horror guy for sure, but
yeah, but the one that he was definitely a director for hire for the last one. So I know what you mean. Like these are these are his last two like Tobe Hooper movies. I agree with that.
yeah, and it's kind of fascinating to almost see this sort of reflection in the 2000s. Because I mean, I don't know. Yeah, I would love to hear. I wish he. I don't know if he had interviewed and talked about kind of what these two movies were meaning to him at the time. Um, but I mean, his career had always been kind of on a will he make it any further or not sort of thing.
Right.
After Cannon goes out, this is, you know, Echo Bridge did this movie. Sorry, I was looking up who did it. I was saying if it was the same Alpine Ridge or whatever it was before. But yeah, I think it's kind of interesting to look at these movies as a weird sort of goodbye for him. And
I
I think
really
they
think
kind
that's
of work better, especially on that level.
I really think that's the best way to see him.
Yeah, because like I mean, his career isn't over, but I mean, this is the last time he's really getting a budget.
Mhm.
Mick Garris's pockets are not endless, I'm sure.
Right. Yeah, no, I think that's a really good way to look at it. And I think it helps contextualize Mortuary because I also think if you look at the house and the way that there's a shot in Mortuary where these kids are coming out of the basement of the what's it called? Well, mortuary
Yeah,
to look around the house, and there's a staircase that goes up to the second floor, and there's a door. There's a shot that's just straight onto the staircase, and there's a door just to the right of the staircase that's open, and it's like an exact same shot as Texas Chainsaw Massacre.
Now I need to go back and pay attention. I'd love to
And that's
pay
okay.
attention.
But there's a few moments in the movie that I was like, oh, like he's just reusing what he knows from TCM. And
Yeah,
like he's the because that world he covered twice, right? He did it in TCM, but then a lot of the same shots he used in that Eggshells movie before then, right?
sure. Yeah.
So he's kind of like he like knows how to do like a he has a certain way that he shoots a house to make it scary and like a certain way that he frames rooms and like all that stuff. And I think a lot of that's here. Um and you can just feel the terror it's like coming, which is good about the movie. Um yeah, not the best movie, but it's enough nostalgia for me that I enjoyed it, and I'm not going to talk shit about it.
Yeah, I mean, I like like both of these movies. The one thing I think is undeniable is the aesthetic. Mortuary
Yeah,
is these are very October movies. I think they there's a I'm trying to just figure out how to describe it. It's like this yellow sludge feel
big time.
that isn't meant to be an insult. That's just like I don't know, there's this grittiness to it
Yeah,
that I
yeah,
think he was really good at in this era. Because I mean, I think that's one thing you were kind of allowed to have in the 2000s horror scene was a personality. And I think he developed one with these two films.
oh,
That
for
I kind of
sure.
hate that we didn't. get more of, in all honesty. I would have dug to see some more in the style of these two movies.
Yeah, I mean that's tough because this is when VHS was starting to die down a little bit. DVDs were coming up. You still had rental stores, like you still had Blockbuster and all that, but I don't know, man. I felt like the home rental market was already starting to die down a little bit. So I don't know where this it was too early for streaming. So I just don't know where they would have made money on a Tobe Hooper film. And it's almost like if he had waited 10 years, he could have been a streaming king, right? Like he would have been perfect for like a Prime or a Netflix or somebody looking to really kind of stand out in horror. Or maybe he would have got money from Neon or, like somebody would have tapped into his genius, I think, 10 years later.
Yeah, and I think that's, if there's a sum up of a lot of these guys, like, we talked about like who were the four big horror guys in their era, and Hooper, Romero, Craven, and Carpenter. I think the common thing in all of their careers, but I think it fits Hooper so much more than the rest. Like it's the extreme version of it is really bad timing. Like they had
Yeah.
really good timing to start, and then it seems like underappreciated, critics hated it, reappraised, now everyone loves it.
Right. Yeah.
And they all had to go through that repeatedly. It's just Hooper had to go through it every step of his career,
Right.
except for TCM. That was the only
Mm.
time he didn't have to, you know, he didn't have to have his work reappraised.
I mean, he made a lot of money on Poltergeist,
Sure, yeah,
but
but that goes back to he doesn't get the credit for Poltergeist.
exactly, exactly.
So,
Yeah.
it that's why Hooper's career is in its own way I'm so glad he never gave up on doing it because I think a lot of people would have.
He got kicked around so much by the Hollywood, like or like the near Hollywood system, right? Because he was only briefly in Hollywood.
Yeah, like I mean, we've talked about it before, but I can't imagine where his like what his legacy would have been if Canon didn't go out of business.
I know.
It's what he was able to do with those three films in particular are really, I think, the only time we got to see what he was capable of, 100%.
Well, yeah, because he had so much freedom in those two. Um,
Yeah, it's like I'm gonna shoot Life Force in 70 millimeter. They're like, sure, go for it. Why not? Which no other studio would have given him that much freedom. It'd be like, yep, I'm gonna do 70 mil. Okay.
no, for sure. Yeah, yeah, it's too bad. I mean, I will just kind of say though that like his TV work is pretty good, and I think
Yeah.
it's interesting that we're gonna end his TV career ends on some of the master horror of episodes, and honestly, like these episodes might be. We talked about not doing a ranking of Hooper's work, but these would be in my top 10. Like both of these, I loved his Masters of Horror episodes.
Well, and I did want to kind of go over. Well, are you good with Mortuary and us moving on to the
I think we've naturally kind of. I mean, yeah.
yeah. So I think one thing that's interesting, we've kind of been building up to. It's kind of interesting how much we've kind of built up to Masters of Horror because
Mhm.
I mean, Masters of Horror comes out in the mid 2000s, and it's really something that's been trying to get off the ground for like 20 years.
Mhm.
I mean, we talked about Body Bags. Him and
Mhm.
Carpenter attempted an anthology series. Nightmare on Elm Street had its own type of anthology thing going on. I
Mhm.
mean, it's just time after time he ended up in these kind of series where everyone was trying to figure out how do you do a horror series
Right.
and and I think the issue of Body Bags is, and this is gonna sound real mean to Mick Garris. I love Mick Garris, but I think when it comes to Body Bags, you have two people like Cooper and Carpenter who are very extreme personalities, who are very in their way about things. I actually think they're probably the worst to handle an anthology series
Okay.
because they're not gonna like if you get more directors in, it's not gonna you're not gonna get a whole lot of variety. I think where Mick Garris is such a where he works so well as a producer in horror, and he's a great interviewer, but I think he's basic enough in certain elements that he's able to come into something like Master of Horror and say, okay, how do we get these guys together? I think he's so good at the business end.
I do agree with that. Yeah.
And I think he recognizes these guys really are some of the best to do it.
Yeah.
You know, we're gonna get Tobe Hooper, we're gonna get John Carpenter, we're gonna get Argento or Mike and all these guys together, and we're just gonna give them an hour. We're gonna give them some funding and let them do their thing.
I mean, it really is like if you look at John Carpenter, Larry Cohen, Don Coscarelli, Joe Dante, Guillermo del Toro, Stuart Gordon, Toby Hooper, John Landis. I mean, like this is just heavy, heavy hitters.
And in its own way, it's kind of a goodbye to an era because I mean, right after
Yeah.
this, you're going to start getting into the guys who are now popular today. You know, you got your James
Hmm.
Wan, your Mike Flanagan's. They were too early for this sort of thing.
Hmm.
So it's almost a goodbye to those 70s and 80s guys. Like
Yeah.
you had a great career, you should be celebrated for it. Here's a chance for you to do something like
Yeah.
one last time.
Yeah. And what a cool, apparently like I don't want to get too much into the lore of Masters of Horror because there's probably a podcast just on that show because it was such a time and a place kind of thing. But apparently he would have dinners with these guys and like they would
Yeah.
have regular meetings and just like talk about the good old days and like talk about whatever else. I don't know. But like how what a cool thing to be invited to that dinner.
Well, Garris is, I always say he's one of my favorite interviewers. Like, and he
Mm,
still interviews today, and he's very good at it. Um, I've mentioned this probably on this podcast before, but one of my favorite horror interviews at all is when he interviews John Landis, David Cronenberg, and John Carpenter. And he's able to get so much of their personalities out and their worldviews out that I don't even think they realize how, open at least two of them are being.
that's cool.
Um, and I think that's what really where his talent was.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, he's just so damn likable that like he's like pure or like authentic, so people like Carpenter probably just loved him.
Yeah, and it's and really what I think that's so fun about that interview is he really lets John Landis and Cronenberg really try to be the ones that try to get Carpenter to open up more during the interview.
Okay.
Like he doesn't push him. He
Hmm.
lets the other two do it.
Mm.
And because there's a whole part. John Landis, of course, was a big personality.
Sure.
So he's sitting there like, John, just tell me anything.
Hmm.
Just tell me anything about this movie. He's like, I've told you about it. We're good. He's like, I'm done.
Hilarious.
Yeah, so it's a very fun interview. I'll have to try to link it to you, but it's always one that I think is where Garris is at his best. And he did one with Flanagan a few years ago that I thought was really good. So him doing Masters of Horror, I think, just makes a lot of sense.
That's cool. And he started off with Don Coscarelli,
Yeah, yeah.
then Stuart Gordon, and then third episode is our man, is our boy, Willard Toby Hooper. Um,
Which I will say, Casarelli would also be an interesting one to talk about because I think he has kind of a similar career. It's another podcast for another day, but Casarelli also had a very interesting career with Phantasm. He did Beastmaster, and then he kind of moved around a lot.
yeah, sure.
Uh,
Yeah, I agree.
so we'll go ahead and get started on his first episode of Masters of Horror, which came out the same year as Mortuary. Dance of the Dead. In a post-apocalyptic society, 17-year-old Peggy lives with her overprotective mother and works in the family restaurant. When punks enter the restaurant and one takes an interest in her, Peggy makes a decision that will change her life forever.
This one is technically on They Shoot Zombies. It's 7,851. So maybe somebody put it on their favorite list, but I'm not going to argue with anybody that puts this on a favorite list. I think this movie is amazing, or this episode is amazing at world building. Just really, really cool world that he throws you into immediately. Um, so much more to discover. Like there could easily be a TV show, I think, just of this world. Um, Robert England again playing full ham, and he kills it. He does great for Toby.
Yeah, his final time playing in a Hooper film after many, many times doing it.
I was just trying to think of it. This is like a oh man, I'm so embarrassed. Who's the guy that plays Pinhead for so many times for his whole career?
Doug Bradley.
Thank you. Uh, has Robert Englund been in as many Hooper films as Doug Radley's played Pinhead?
No, I think Bradley's at like 7 or
Okay.
8 times.
Mm, okay. Okay. But
Insanity, yeah, it's insane.
but England is teamed up with Hooper a lot.
And throughout the whole his whole career, like it
Yeah.
wasn't just like I had you for a few years and then we separated. It's just like every I feel like every episode we've had a Robert England
Yeah.
in it.
Yeah. It's cool. It's really like I think he does awesome in this, and I love the underground club. This is
Yeah.
called Dance of the Dead, and the is it a spoiler to give away like what they're doing with the bodies and how they're entertaining people? Is that a spoiler?
No, I think when you get into these like simple premise, hour-long episodes, stuff like that's not really a spoiler.
It's
It's
just a
just the
great.
premise.
Yeah, I kind of feel that way too. I mean, it's just such a cool premise for a horror, well, movie, but in this case, horror show, right? Of like they found a way to basically infuse people with blood that are recently deceased, and like sort of electricity and this particular serum, or I guess, or some kind of something that was created that just kind of like gives them that jolt, and they sort of like flail around and dance around and then go back to sleep when they're done. But like they're able to kind of reinvigorate them for like short bursts of time, and they bring them out and they dance and they fight, and or they just like they entertain people basically for a short time. It's this really macabre world and sick world, and I thought it was a really cool idea for a horror story.
Yeah, like I think it hits a lot of interesting, like you can almost feel where some of these ideas come from. Like there's obviously the like a Frankenstein
Hmm.
feel to
Hmm.
the electricity and the jolts of stuff. Um, and then you have I think that, like to me the beginning has a very Assault on Precinct 13 feel in the sense of like the punk characters and
I
like
like that.
yeah, so I feel a little bit of that, and then what was the last one? And when you talk about like the jolt and the dance like thing, it reminds me of like how a lot of like when people used to be hung as an execution, they used to talk about feet dancing.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah, like their feet would dance, and that's what people would pay attention to.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So it's an interesting one. I think between the two, this I like the other one a little bit better, but there's a lot of chaotic energy here. Like, and I think both of those have it, but this one for sure has I would almost say a more 80s Hooper feel in it.
Yes. Yeah, no, for sure. This is when like this would have been made along with TCM2, Funhouse. Like this has, I think it fits right in, like smack in the middle with all those. But if we want to get into the damn thing as just to talk about overall his experience in Masters of Horror, I mean, there's no doubt. Well, in my mind, there's no question. This is the better of the two.
Yeah, so that was his season one episode. So he actually gets to start out, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe he starts season two.
Yeah, he does. He does.
So another commonality in Hooper's career is he got to start a lot of things, and
Right. Right.
yeah, that was happened a lot in TV shows. So with the damn thing, his season two, episode one premiere, Sheriff Reddle thinks there is a connection between a mysterious invisible force that made his father kill his mother back in 1981. He sets out to uncover to stop the so-called damn thing before it decimates. Oh my God, I messed that up bad. Before it decimates the whole town by forcing the residents to kill each other and then finally themselves. So, one thing I want to bring up, because I think this is interesting, where the first one is kind of a zombie thing. I guess you could
Mhm.
argue it has like a zombiness to it,
Mhm,
where
mhm.
the premise of this one is very close to a zombie movie that doesn't have zombies in it.
Right. That's true.
Yeah, like it's very the crazies.
Exactly.
But without like, like there was a reversion thing, but is this one on any other list? I assume that it's not.
It's in the 8,000s for they shoot zombies, which I'm
Okay.
surprised it's not higher um than the other Masters of Horror episode. But
Season one is just typically considered the better season. So I
Okay.
wonder if that kind
I
of
see. Maybe so then.
like colors people's feelings on it.
Yeah, yeah, could be. But I think that I would beg people if you're just gonna watch like 5 or 6 Toby Hooper things, I would include this in them. I think maybe 10. I think he might do 5 things better than this, but I loved this a lot. Like, I think it's a well-made movie. Like, you talked about the chaotic energy in Dance of the Dead, where that might be a turnoff for some people, but I don't think the damn thing has anything that would directly be a turnoff for people. Like, I think it's more of just a slower, great, like well-made horror story.
Yeah, like I think it's interesting because I actually think from what I've seen, this one's lower rated, maybe even on Letterboxd as well. I'm gonna like triple check, but I think there's a slowness to this, nothing that's unusual for Hooper. Like I think he could do slow when he wanted to. Um, there's a little bit more of a mystery here, which I think is kind of a commonality in a little bit more of this era of Hooper, like a little bit more mystery to things. Um, I just really, for me, I think the most impressed I am is just always with how underrated Sean Patrick Flannery is as an actor.
Oh, he did a good job here. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, like everything I see this dude in, I'm like, man, he is such a good actor. Why isn't he bigger? Like, I think he puts a lot of emotion into this movie. Like, I really do think he really does to me just carry the emotional element all the way through because I think there is a little bit more of that. It's a little bit slower. It's a little bit more. I hate to say the word emotional again, but yeah, in that sense.
Well, I
Where
think it. Yeah, go ahead.
go for it. Yeah.
Just because you were looking for words to describe like the pacing and stuff, I think the first half of Jordan Peele's Nope feels very similar to this.
Yeah. Yeah, that's an interesting comparison, but yes, I can yeah, where it kind of it ramps up almost all of a sudden.
Yeah, yeah. Different movies, but I think it's that just to give you a sense of like the pacing of it. Like it's clear that he's building towards something.
And I that kind of fits like my biggest criticism with this really is I feel like it needs more time. Like where
Yeah,
Dance of the Dead feels like I got everything I wanted out of it in an hour.
right.
With this one, I'm like, this really sometimes feels like it needs just a little bit more room
Yeah,
than the 55 or 56 minutes.
totally agree. I would have loved to see this made into a feature film. Um, yeah. Yeah, there's certain stories that really capture my imagination. I think this is one that did just in terms of when you see it made into a movie. There's a if you ever get a chance to, do you own either 16 Tongues or not Shattered Dead, but what's the Scooter McCrae movie that just came out? Do you own any Scooter McCrae movies?
I do not. I know I've heard you talk about him several
That's
times.
okay. There's the one that he just did, I think you would really, 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 really like. Um, but both of the discs for um, 16 Tongues and Black Eyed Susan, both of those discs have his short film Saint Frankenstein. And I always say this about Saint Frankenstein that it kills me that he's not going to get any money to make that into a feature because the world that he creates just in one hotel room in like a short film, you're just like, holy cow. And I asked him if he had built that world out. He's like, yeah, oh yeah. So anybody that wants to give money to Scooter McCrae, go do it since you can't give it to Hooper at the moment.
I need to check out his stuff. I remember you talking about what was it called? Black Susan?
Black Eyed Susan, yeah.
Black Eyed Susan. Yeah, I remember you talking about that one and it sounded really good. And it got put out on a partner label, didn't it?
It did. Well, Vinegar Syndrome released it on one of their lines called the Vinegar Syndrome Pictures line, where they invest in it.
Okay.
Um, but
Okay.
but also it just recently got put onto Shutter like a week ago.
Oh, good. That'll be real easy for me to watch it then.
Yeah. I would love to hear your thoughts on Black Eyed Susan if you ever get to it. And for those that listen to They Live by Film and are not as deep into the hard hitting, uncomfortable exploitation side of things, I would put a trigger warning. I would put multiple trigger warnings in front of Black Eyed Susan. Please do your research. But I'm just saying for Zach, I would love to hear your opinion on it.
Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna try. I need to get back into some more movie watching, so maybe I'll throw that on sometime this week.
Um, you can now that we've made it through Toby Hooper's movies. But before we wrap up his career, he got a what I hope is a bag of money. I don't know that story, but I hope he got a lot of money to go make a horror movie for the United Arab Emirates.
Not only that, making from what I could tell and from what everyone says, the first horror movie from the United Arab Emirates.
Amazing. Amazing.
That
Um,
and that is a movie called Jinn,
yes.
which, oh, of course, this one I knew one of these was going to have a long synopsis. Desperate to put the traumatic loss of their infant child behind them, newlywed couple, oh, I hate you guys, return to their home in the United Arab Emirates. Unknown to the couple, their new luxury apartment block, Al Hamra, was built on the site of an old abandoned fishing village of the same name. Legend has it that the village was abandoned after a malevolent being haunted the inhabitants. Unsettled by their new surroundings and the eerie hallways of Al Hamra, Khalid worries his wife is failing to battle her personal demons, but could it be something far more sinister? My God, you don't have to put the entire back of the DVD box on this. Okay. Anyway, thoughts on Jin? I'm very curious.
Um, I'm not going to be super positive on this. Did you want to go first?
I mean, I'm not in love with Jen. I think it's one of those movies where I think the behind the scenes, at least a little bit I've delved into, is probably more interesting than the movie itself. Like,
Yeah.
I can't say this feels like a Hooper movie. I think it's neat, like, to be in the history of another country, like, if the UAE ever gets like a big horror scene, to sit there and say, well, Hooper, kind of started that. That's a cool thing to say
Yes.
for his legacy. But as far as the movie goes, the only thing I wanted to tie back in is that movie. Who's is it? Night Terror? Is that the one? The one where they're in Egypt?
Oh, yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of interesting for him to, it was really interesting to me to go back and watch that one because I hadn't seen it until after I saw this. And I was like, huh, it's kind of interesting. He had kind of a almost a fascination because it's like that movie's about that girl who's getting real into,
Marquis de
I
Sade.
guess, the culture. I don't know if you could say that. Naked dudes on horses, but it's kind of interesting for that to kind of be compared to something like Jen.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. I'm glad you started with that. I think this mostly missed on everything it could have been. I mean, Jinn is another is a very historic cultural evil force in Islam and in Arabic cultures, and it's been anglicized to pronounced genie, but we don't uh, think of genies. I think in the way that they think of jinn. It's a very different style of
Yeah, like
genie.
I mean, Jen or you can correct me if I'm incorrect, but my understanding is they're essentially like Islam's version of demons in their own way.
Yeah, they're interesting though because they have the ability to follow God or not.
Okay.
But the ones that we saw in this movie did not chose not to. These were the evil ones. And I would have loved to see more. I know this film does get a little supernatural, but man, I would have loved to see them really ramp it up. Or you could go, there's this cool, like most of the movie is shot in a sandstorm, which I think is pretty cool for the claustrophobic effect. Because
Yeah, and I wonder, if that was just more of them taking advantage of like sandstorms in the area. Like I want to know how like planned that was to have like scenes take place during that. And they said, that's another sandstorm. Get in there, guys.
yeah, I don't know, but I don't know exactly how frequent they are, but I was in Dubai for a week and I didn't see any. So I know, and you went to Dubai as well, right? Or you were in that area of the world at least.
Yeah, I've been to the Middle East. I've never been to Dubai. I've been to Saudi Arabia and I've been to Egypt.
Okay. Well, Egypt, not so much. But in Saudi Arabia, did you see a sandstorm?
Yeah, I kinda. Now I did
Okay.
see one in Egypt, funny
Oh,
enough.
you did?
Yeah, I did see one. It wasn't a huge one. It's just mostly a pollution problem.
Okay.
But I did see one while I was trying to sleep in the airport in Jeddah.
Super
So I was
interesting.
behind glass, so I was fine. But
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But I mean, it just like I think that's an interesting angle to this. Certainly, the Middle East, well, the UAE is so modern and new, and like everything is so built up that
yeah, I
like yeah,
mean, basically Dubai was a parking lot 40 years ago, right? Like it was
yeah,
nothing.
yeah, desert and like a few buildings, yeah. But the idea that there would have been this old fishing village there is that's kind of a cool aspect. Like there's elements to this where I think on paper they sounded good, but unfortunately for me, that just like it felt like a TV melodrama with uh, made to like forced to be a horror movie. Like the main actress in this, the lead, her name is Salama in the movie. She's fine, but like she just felt more like a TV actress, like a soap opera actress.
Now, I'm curious, did the character speak English or Arabic when you watched it?
Both, the movie was in Arabic and English for me.
Yeah, it went back and forth mostly. I think I could be incorrect because the reading on this is very in specific,
Mhm.
but it almost sounds like to me that there was at least an edit of the film where they speak nothing but Arabic, and that might be for the UAE. And I don't know if she would have been better for that because I don't know what their native is. I assume they're from the UAE.
Well, I mean, so like the main character Rosani, her name is Rosani Jamal.
Uh-huh.
She's half British.
Oh, okay, I
And
didn't know
then
that.
her sister is Egyptian Palestinian, and then the temptress is British Saudi. So like,
Interesting.
yeah, I don't know the Khalid guy, but he sounded very American when he spoke English. Like he sounds, I would guess he was an American guy who was Arabic. I don't know. But no, and honestly though, even if you spend like, there's a lot of people in Dubai that sound British, even if they were born and lived their whole life in the UAE. Like it's English is very, 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 very comfortable for that region.
Yeah.
I just I don't know, man. I just think it's like I I yeah, maybe something you said earlier is really where I'm struggling with this. Maybe it's just like it's groundbreaking in that it's the first of a kind. And so if it's the first of a kind, can you just imagine the censorship that Tobe Hooper would have had on the script and on the producer's notes and on the like, oh, you can't do this in the Dubai, like you can't do this in the UAE, like so who knows how many edits this went through and revisions it went through. I mean, I guess we don't really have.
Apparently, this goes into what you're saying. On the director's chair, they had to cover up the word "gen" to not offend
Yeah.
locals.
So right, okay, so there you go. I mean, like it just kind of felt like a movie where they would cover up Jen on the back of the director's chair. I don't know, like it felt like they wanted to make a horror movie, but like it was difficult to commit to it or something. I don't know. I really didn't register with this one much at all.
No, it doesn't have a lot of Hooperisms in it. Like,
No,
yeah, like, and that's kind of another reason when it's like, really mortuary and toolbox murders are kind of the ends, like for him.
yeah.
But I mean, like I said, at the end of the day, if it kind of goes out to adding to your legacy, it's better than a lot of directors get at the end.
No, I mean it's a huge honor, right? I mean it's a the like you said, horror movies in Dubai and well the UAE because I think this one was mostly focused in Abu Dhabi, but whatever that in that area, like they're going to be remembered as starting with Toby Hooper in 2013, and that's awesome. Like that's a cool stamp that
Yeah.
he gets on his career. I agree with
Yeah, and that's more interesting than the movie is. That's really, it's
that.
kind of like when you watch like silent horror films in the US and you're like, this is garbage, but I appreciate what they were able to accomplish.
Yeah. There is one thing I will say. I'm just trying to think of positive things to say about it. I think the mother was awesome.
Yes. Yes.
I think she nailed it because there was this tension that I think the movie was trying to build this idea that like you never knew who was possessed at any given moment. Like they would kind of you remember early on when they were back in New York, there was the marriage counselor and you could see like her eyes flashed black for a second and she was
Mm.
like,
Very supernatural, yes.
yeah, so like there was that constant thing where like the jinn was kind of in and out of people's bodies like taking over and you never knew exactly who was speaking in their pure mind.
It
And
almost needed to be, since I compared Assault on Precinct 13 to it, it almost needed to have like a thing moment, your blood test.
I would have loved to see something like that. I don't know, just something that leans into it a bit more. But when the mom was on screen, I think she really owned those scenes. Like I was really like I thought she did a fantastic job.
Yeah, I think that could be something too. Like, I think one thing Hooper was always really good at was finding a cast in most cases that could build off the tone he's trying to set. And they
Yeah.
really were aware of what the movie was.
Yeah.
I'm not sure everyone here knew exactly what the movie was. And that could be a big part. I mean, because they all are acting kind of differently.
Yeah. I'm just trying to think to that comment though. I'm just trying to wonder if that's even their fault. And what I mean is, you know, there's this thing that we never get access to when we're just watching the movie, which is what was shot versus what happened in the editing room versus what happened afterwards and what was reshot and all that, right?
Yeah.
And I just don't know. I have a hunch that this was shot like, okay, here's the family scenes, and then here's the scenes in like the car, and then like here's the scenes with the bellhop or the concierge or like the main guy. And I just have a feeling like it was shot kind of sporadically, like it wasn't shot in any linear way. And maybe there's certain people only had availability on certain days. I don't know. I just to me it feels like a movie where they kind of like had the pieces and they did it separately and they kind of made it work together in a way, but it's just I don't know, it's a little bit of a mess. I couldn't get into it really.
Yeah. I mean, I don't have much else to add. It's an interest. I guess it can sum up as an interesting way to end the episode off, which I guess is its own good summary of Hooper as a visionary filmmaker.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean he brought horror to a region.
Yeah, and I mean, you think about the beginning of 70s horror,
Hmm.
is really Hooper. I mean,
Hmm.
you know, TCM comes out in 74, and in 2013, you're looking at almost 50, you're looking at 40 years later. I mean, he's went to a different country and tried to do the same thing there. Maybe not as successfully, but still trying to do a similar thing.
How, speaking of legacy, how much Hooper had you seen coming into this whole exercise?
I would say about 50%.
Okay.
None of his TV stuff. Like, I had not seen anything he had done for TV. I hadn't seen a few of his. I hadn't seen Invaders of Mars for sure.
Mm,
Um, and some of these, it's hard to know. Like, is that a TV movie or is it a movie? Like, Apartment Complex is kind of both, kind of a TV
right,
thing, kind
right,
of
right.
not. So yeah, I mean, I'd say. And you were kind of just on most of his big stuff, right?
Oh yeah, a lot of this was new for me.
Yeah.
For sure. How did his perception of well, did your perception of him change at all going through this?
Um, yeah, I would say so. I think you get kind of a different appreciation for a guy who is able to adapt because I think an issue you always have when you take a director and you're just taking pieces of them and you're saying, I think one of the perceptions of Hooper that some people will have is he was a one-hit wonder who somehow managed to have a career, but I think that's very unfair, a very unflattering read because I think his ability to adapt to whatever situation he got himself into is why he was so successful. A lot of, like I said, after Canon goes out and you start realizing your budgets are a tenth of what they were, a lot of directors call it quits. They say, well, I had a good career, but I mean, he still went on for another 20 some years.
Okay. The fact that he was, let's just go with that for a second. Let's just flip that and say that he was a one hit wonder. Okay. By the way, I don't think he was either, but
No,
I'm
I
just,
don't agree with that perception either.
no, 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 no. But just for the sake of argument, if he was a one hit wonder, does that say more about him or the culture? Because, like if you think about one hit wonders, if you listen to their albums outside of the hit, like they're pretty bad a lot of times. And
Yeah.
when you're listening, you're like, oh, okay, like they just hit it. They had like one song in them or two songs in them. I get it, but they weren't like career musicians. Like these are just people that they just had something in their head that worked, right? Um, but the interesting thing to me about Hooper, which is why I think that the analogy doesn't fit for him or the label doesn't fit for him, is you could hand him almost any script. I mean, granted, most of it was in horror or fantasy or sci-fi, but you could hand him anything and he just intuitively got it. And then he had the ability to then translate that into something that was fun to watch.
Yeah, and I think that's if you compare him to somebody like Romero, I love Romero, so this isn't supposed to dog on him. But I mean, Romero really had three or four things in his career. The zombie thing was big for him. He made six films about zombies. I think it's six or seven.
Mhm.
Um, and then he had some kind of other things that had some limited success, like Martin or anything like that. But Hooper really did branch out a lot when it came to what he
Yeah.
made.
I don't know how much of that was him chasing financing
No,
or,
yeah, I mean, I don't know how much of it was choice, but I mean, he had 23 movies, a bunch of TV shows. I mean, pretty busy guy for that career.
and I think one of the things that my perception of him changed a lot, by the way, just going through this. And I think, you know, I've always liked TCM, obviously. Um, but what I didn't realize is that TCM was kind of only one side of his personality. And when you start getting into him, he's got such a dark sense of humor. And I think that that's something that really carries through in his best movies is it feels like he's able to kind of sit in this like dark sense of humor.
Yeah, for sure.
And those are the ones of his Funhouse, TCM2, TCM obviously. But there's just certain ones in there where even the Marquis de Sade one, I know you didn't like it as much, but he had fun, he was playful in that. Like he was, having like to me, those are his best movies. When he's just the mangler, like that's the Hooper that I like the most. When he's just like he's it's almost like he's taking like Stephen King approach of these like stories, but he's just like really going deep into the macabre, and really just kind of like sitting in it.
Yeah, and I think, of course, the Stephen King thing is always going to be interesting because the two Stephen King stories he adapted couldn't be more different.
Right.
And so I think I think that's a really good comparison just because of Salem's Lot and The Mangler being so completely different.
Yeah. And again, it's him reading the text, understanding for me, like they both work. And it's like understanding what they're about and then having a vision for how to translate that in a way that's watchable, fun to watch. Um, and of the two of them, I do like the Mangler more, but that's just more my sensibility. They're both great. I would defend either of them, but I don't know, man. When he's given time and budget and creativity and allowed to be like in that dark playground in his mind, I think he just really, really, really stands out. I think he's phenomenal.
Well, do we want to highlight anything since I know this was new for you, but as far as so most of these were new for you, but if you were going to highlight maybe three that you hadn't seen before this that you would recommend people check out if they wanted to see what maybe they missed out on because of Hooper's perception in the general public, what would they be?
Yeah, I think that's a really good exercise. So I'm just gonna defend Eaten Alive.
Please do.
Um, I know you and me both like it, but I just think that it's um much better than people give it credit for. And I think with people joke or they'll laugh at the like crocodile being obviously fake or whatever, some of the stuff being a little cheap or whatever. But it just watching it so closely after TCM, literally like days apart. I really felt like those two worlds were overlapping in really fun ways, and I really liked Eaten Alive. I think it's great. So I'm going to push people there. Let's see, I had seen Funhouse before, so I guess that doesn't count, but definitely watch Funhouse. Um, how do you do this without talking about TCM2? If I had to rank these, I would really struggle to rank TCM one or two as far as which one I liked more. I would really go back and forth on that. Um, I probably honestly, if I'm being completely honest and unashamed, TCM two probably goes first for me. I
I
just
mean,
think,
I think it's a good pick. They're my top two, like for sure. Like it's one and two, but they're both my one and two anyway in his filmography.
yeah. Good. I guess maybe we're the same. And as far as undiscovered stuff, I'm Dangerous Tonight, I think is one that people should visit. The dress one.
Yes, that's definitely one of mine because that's like my number four and like when I did his ranking
Oh, that's
on my
cool.
list. I could not believe it was that high. I was like I went in not expecting a thing from it.
No, I mean, I had that feeling on a lot of his movies. The Mangler was one that I loved it, man. That's probably the other one for me. And then maybe Toolbox Murders or something as far as movie, because I know you're going to talk about one that would be next on my list, Inside an Apartment Complex. But I just think there's certain ones that I'd have to include, and that would be those are up there for me.
Yeah, and I mean I would also include Two Blocks Murders just because I think we kind of you touched on it when we were talking about the episode anyway, but I think people could go into Toolbox Murders and like it. If you just go in wanting a horror movie that is enjoyable, I don't think it's going to be a divisive one nowadays.
No, I really don't think so.
And Apartment Complex for me was another one. That would be my third, just because it's just fascinating. Like watching that movie was such a blast for me.
Hmm.
That I didn't expect. That was another one. Like I think the most fun I had with these Hooper movies was the ones where I went in, not necessarily dreading, but saying, "Oh, another TV movie."
Hmm.
It's like I wonder how this one's gonna be, and then you're
Yeah,
like, "Oh, this is actually really good."
big time. Yeah, big time.
Well,
Um,
any final thoughts on Hooper before we wrap this up?
no, I'm just thinking, man. I'm just trying to think of like I would just say, Will um oh my gosh, why am I blanking on his name? Dr. Will Dodson
Mhm.
has literally wrote a book on Tobe Hooper, and he's such a big proponent of his work. And I think I get it. I just want to say, like, I get it, and I'm gonna champion his work too. I think he has something for almost every type of horror fan. And he has some stuff that's good for just movie lovers in general. And I I hope that he continues to stay very top of mind for people when they talk about greatest horror directors because I think he deserves it.
I agree. I concur with all of that.
Well, Zach, we are in an interesting place and they live by film. So, without going into all the details of our personal lives and jobs and everything, I think between Adam and between you and then between some of the other podcasts I'm working on and different things, I think we're going to pause for a while. Yeah.
Uh, I'm at least pausing for a while. I wasn't sure what you and Adam had decided yet, but yeah, I mean, there's definitely a lot going on at one time.
Yeah, I think there's going to be an undetermined pause. Most likely we will come back. But right now the exact timing is a bit unknown. And I just want to say, like, it's if uh, there's, I guess, to the people that have listened for this whole time, just thank you. Like, it's really random and cool and strange to me that almost every episode gets within a range of exactly the same amount of listeners and very little promotion on our part. Like, we're all terrible at social media. Zach's not even on it. um, but we're all bad at promoting ourselves. But like, there's just this group of people that around the world, and like 12 countries, 14 countries, and they just tune in every time. And I just want to say, like, seriously, thank you. It's really cool to see that.
Yeah, yeah. Thanks for this, everyone who stuck around for this really long ride to getting through these Hooper movies. So it was we started end of the year last year.
Yeah, 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 yeah.
Yeah, so it was really just an episode a month, and we got through 23 movies and like 10 episodes of a TV show. So this was a lot more fun than Von Trier. I do not regret doing Von Trier, but this was a lot more fun.
Man, that was devastating emotionally, but yeah, also fun. And Zach, I really like doing this with you, and so I hope we do get to come back and keep going because I think, yeah, I really like doing this with you. I like your perspective. I've said it before, you're much smarter than me, and I don't know if Adam would admit that, but I like the way you are contemplative on things and you really process movies in a way that's new for me and interesting. And you could bring different elements of like literature and your different movies and TV shows and everything together in great ways. So I've really enjoyed doing this with you too.
Well, I've been no, it's been a blast, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Well, until next time, whenever that is, we'll sign off for now. See you all online. We'll keep all of our channels active and live and everything, so we're not going away, but um see you when we get back together. But yeah, thank you all.
Thank you. Y'all have a good one.
Great.
Thank you for listening. To hear more shows from the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network, please select the link in the description.
If you're looking for more horror outside of the mainstream, look no further than Unsung Horrors, a podcast about underseen horror movies. I'm Lance.
And I'm Erica. Every other week, we'll cover a horror movie with fewer than 1,000 views on Letterboxd. We'll even give you double feature recommendations to pair with the movies we discuss.
From gothic to shot on video, from slashers to comedies, from giallo to J-horror, we'll cover all the subgenres. So join us as we unearth these hidden gems of horror.
Follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook, all at Unsung Horrors, available wherever you listen to podcasts. And part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.
Hello, my name is Kevin Tudor, and I'm one of the 3 hosts of Almost Major, a film podcast dissecting many major indie studios and the films they release. Every week, myself, Charlie Nash, and Bryden Doyle discuss overlooked, forgotten, or bona fide classic indie films via studio-specific miniseries. We've previously covered numerous films from Artisan Entertainment, Lionsgate Films, and New Line Cinema. Titles including The Blair Witch Project, American Psycho, Dogville, But I'm a Cheerleader, Saw, Requiem for a Dream, and Ringmaster, you know, the Jerry Springer film. Anyways, we have a fun time every week and we hope you will join us. Subscribe to Almost Major wherever you get your podcasts. Now proudly a part of the Someone's Favorite Productions podcast network.